Alrighty. Howdy neighbors and welcome back to Who is the Red Queen? Last time I found all of her limbs, and I have decided to just lean heavily into dating the Hatter. Here we go. I opened my eyes to an empty feeling in my mind. Disoriented, I nearly rolled off my armchair, in which I had gone to sleep. I sat up and stifled a yawn, rubbing the bridge of my nose. Duh. I blinked. I blinked again, chasing away the haze. I felt as if I had forgotten something very important. Yeah! The baby girl. In the meanwhile, the Hatter brought over a decorated cake, much more elaborate than the usual snacks at her eternal tea time. It was a cake of cream and fruits, 2-layered even, with flowers and pictures carved up with food ingredients. I can only call it a pretty cake. She grinned cheekily, winking. Just in time for tea, Alice. I got up from my armchair. The Hatter lightly pushed me back down. My behind landed on the cushion with a soft bounce. It seemed I could not but sit. He stared at me before sticking a handful of candles into the cake, lighting them with a match. The Hatter made a devilish wide grin. Flick! The flame glowed on the hand of the match in just a few seconds. After settling the candles, she began clapping her hands to an unsteady rhythm. Happy on birthday to you! Happy on birthday to you! Happy on birthday! Dear Alice. A terribly offbeat, off-balance song she sang, and her voice warped as she said my name today. A certain darkness flickered in her mismatched eyes. She sneered. Happy on birthday to you! I couldn't understand it. I couldn't understand. I simply watched as she finished the song's small clap and pushed the cake a bit closer to me. What is this for, Hatter? Certainly today was not my birthday. Didn't I tell you? Don't you remember? You got a special prize for bringing me all 4 limbs, Alice. This is not your birthday. It must be your unbirthday. Oh, 364 days of the year. Picking up a knife, she cut out a slice of cake and slid over to me. I caught it in a hurry, and soon enough she poured me a cup of tea that also came too quickly. I noticed a hammer on the table right next to the cake knife. She gestured, urging me to have a taste. The calming scent of the tea wafted to my nose, mixed with sweet, milky cream. The celebratory cake slice looked so charming I almost felt it was a shame to eat. I picked up the cup of tea and took a sip. This is my favorite. After enjoying some tea, I started on the cake. As I ate, the Hatter placed a box before me. She was still sneering. Open your present, Alice. Chop it open. Smash it open. Any way you like. I surveyed the box. An odd, plain box. Just big enough to store an animal. From the outside, I could not tell what might lie inside. I picked up a small gap, afraid to disturb what might be inside. Shadows blocked my vision. I saw nothing, but heard a low gurgling, drowning sound, a strange, strangled voice. When it sent a chill running up my neck, thought my headache hit me again. In one go, I flung off the lid. Show me the head. Oh, that's Alice. Yes, that was a head, a bloodied head. A head, a woman's head, a girl's head. The head that should have been dead. A much too familiar face. A much too foreign face. I didn't quite understand what I was looking at even, as the world seemed to shift around me. Her matted hair was blonde. Her bloody skin was pale. But her unfocused eyes were not blue, rather they were red. Alice, you knew who that face belonged to. Alice! Whose head is this? I stumbled to my feet to back away, only to fall back into the armchair from my loss of equilibrium. This wasn't right. The face looked just like mine. Just almost. I lifted my neck to straight face to make sure that I was still there. This was the Red Queen. This was Alice. It was a severed head, Alice. Whose head is this? I wanted to ask, but instead a strangled cry escaped my throat. I couldn't move my eyes away from the so-called prize that the Hatter had given me. The blood pooled at the bottom of the box, sticky and dark. How terrible. It was a trembled hand to touch it. But it wasn't my place. I tried to close her eyes, put her at peace. That was so moving, twisting, the squelching and squish. Its wet, ragged sound of raspy breathing echoed in my skull. I took my hand back and covered my ears. I couldn't look away. Now, aren't you glad you needn't find Her Majesty's head? As if laughing at me, as if she didn't truly mean that. With an odd tilt of her voice, as she spoke of the Red Queen, the Hatter confirmed the head's owner. She walked over to the Red Queen, flung the cage door open, and popped the limbs onto the torso one by one. As they reattached, they began to flail and grab the Hatter. This time she was prepared and grabbed her hammer. Hatter. With a pair of loud bangs, the hammer nailed through the corpse's hands into the Queen's chair. Red dripped to the ground. The hands twitched, the body writhed. The ghostly pain ran up my arms as my stomach turned. I felt dizzy. What? Hatter. I discovered that I had nothing to say. Even though I always had thoughts racing in my mind, I had nothing to say. Alice. That is why you're worthless. Ask something, anything. I touched my face to see my lips had curled up without me thinking to. Oh, you want to leave this place? Ha 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 ha. Now you found the Red Queen. If you have something you want to talk with her about. I'll let you take care of that before I proceed with my own business. She pushed the Red Queen over, tears scraping to the ground with a hideous squeal. It stopped only when I sat face to face with the headless, shifting body. Taking the head out of the box, the Hatter put it on the body. Skin and meat deformed, contorting until the pieces of neck met exactly where they should. Then it all knitted together, with something unnaturally crawling under the skin. I shuddered at the hollow sound made from the corpse as her throat connected. The Red Queen looked at me with dead red eyes. I didn't know what she went through, but she looked terrible. I realized I hadn't ever asked who killed her like this, nor had I ever stumbled upon the answer, same way I found all the limbs. I think we know who did. I think we know who did. This was the Red Queen. Alice, this was me. The requests I had been pondering on, the wishes to go back home, the want to ask her for help, they all flew out of my mind. Because this wasn't right. The face I was looking at, battered and bloodied as it appears, was not right. I couldn't speak, but she did. Mouthing words, yet making no sound, besides the hollow whistle of a crushed throat. The Red Queen began to talk without saying a thing. Her tongue was missing, and we had to do something about that. Where's the tongue? I tried to find my own tongue, stumbling with a pulsing pressure at the back of my head before I could articulate my next inquiry. Hatter, where's the Red Queen's tongue? I don't want to hear her voice, but I tore it out better than dogs. The Red Queen was complete without a tongue. Although she squirmed in her chair, causing the nails to creak, it seemed like she didn't truly have her soul. Alice, you were so close. The corpse looked upon us with stagnant eyes. That should mean I needn't bother searching for it then. What were your intentions, Hatter? Am I the Red Queen? At this point, I still knew nothing about the Red Queen, but that she shared my face, and of the various gossips I overheard on the ruler. Alice! Looking at the Hatter's mismatched eyes, I could see what she thought for the first time. She was sneering. What do you think? Many dots. She frowned at my silence. Let me tell you a story, Your Majesty. So I was your majesty now. As Hatter spoke, she appeared frustrated, angry. A long time ago, in this corner of Wonderland, there lived a group of 3 friends, a mouse, a hare, and a hatter. We lived far away from the bustling society, usually just coming together for tea. I made hats, and they did mouse and hare things. Once, we had been dragged to perform like clowns for visitors to this kingdom. But only that once, for Her Majesty hadn't quite appreciated our lack of skill. Her Majesty ran the court of law, a strict queen, some called her. A mad queen, some whispered, a tyrant. Most could not even dare to say. I think the storm should be predictable, don't you? They were called into court one day. No reason? Maybe only to be judged. They proclaimed us guilty and had us sentenced. I, for no reason, received the lightest sentence of the day. I came away with my neck still intact, not knowing a thing. Thrown into prison and starved. Only just that much. When I came out, the streets were filled with newly spilled blood, and 2 very familiar heads rolled my way. Crows feasted on carrion, only for even them to be swept away by the Queen's cards. Do I need to explain further? Perhaps you really are blind and deaf. Ha 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 ha. Dormouse and March Hare are dead. For what? For the sole crime of offending the world's tyrant. And so Hatter had been all alone for a long time. I can never forgive the Red Queen. The Hatter's smile disappeared. She looked disappointed. Why, she went and died. Who let her get away with that so easily? She sneered again. Well, you are the same entity as the Red Queen. I can't let you go. Don't you understand? She glared at me. Hatter, for the sake of my own revenge, you have to die, Alice. No, Mad Hatter, I loved you. She spun the hammer in her hands, face devoid of mirth, as she stepped closer to me, meeting my eyes with her mismatched pair. Listen, my justice, Alice. Bye, Alice. Goodbye. She raised the hammer above her head. Why did she look like she was about to cry? Crack. Then I was falling. Falling. I was falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start nor end, I was falling. My skull and brain pieced itself together, twisting as if going back in time. I re-experienced the pain of having my head cracked in with a hammer. I was going mad. The wetness, perhaps tears, perhaps brain matter, went down my face as I tried to comprehend. I should have died. I felt as if I was remembering something very important. I landed in Wonderland once more. Alice! The first person to greet me once more was the White Rabbit. I grabbed my head only to find no injuries, no red. No longer able to differentiate between dream and reality. I questioned if I had merely been hallucinating the whole time. Then I was falling again. I died again. Alice! Each time I fall, I came back down. Alice! It became a hazy world. A distorted world. A world that was beginning to lose its colors. Time and time again, falling. I seemed to revert the hourglass and turn back the hands of the clock, each time going into another past. Before I knew it, the rabbit had changed. Your Majesty. She was a bit more polite. Your Majesty. Perhaps a bit more cruel in her eyes. A bit less restrained with the darkness in her gut. She called it to me each and every time. Your Majesty. Rabbit was my starting point, my saving point. Falling. I kept falling uncontrollably. Falling, landing, dying, falling. I no longer felt as if I had control of my own body anymore. My world flickered on and off. It hurt. Dying hurt. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Alice, you had to deal with this. I didn't want to. I really didn't want to. I didn't want to deal with this anymore. Again, I fell. I felt my body on the ground. With hazy eyes, I saw a familiar figure and heard it speak with a familiar voice. Murmurs reached my ears from all around. Her face and her words, not a single thing I could make out. But I even got the chance to see the rabbit. Oh, before I even got a chance to see the rabbit, a growingly familiar sensation struck me. Pain. A sharp agony burned in my arm. Burned in my arms till I suddenly could not feel my fingers. And then the same came to my legs. Chop, chop, there they went. A limb or two or three or four. Off they went until suddenly I had none for myself. Soon a blade cut through my neck, sawing as it got stuck and stabbed. Again and again, the head finally came off, and I was falling again. Drowning through the flesh clogging my throat. As it all reattached, I came to a realization. Oh, I understood. Alice, what had you understood? I was done. I'd certainly gone mad. I couldn't handle this anymore, even if I still wanted to go home. It wouldn't do me any good anyhow. Maybe this was a dream, an illusion. So how long was I supposed to keep falling? Alice, you would never awaken from this dream. And then I was falling again. I decided to stop thinking, and only keep falling. Tick, tick, tock, tick, tock, tick, tock. Opened my eyes to a courtroom with an air of fear. Watching, I was simply watching through another's eyes. Sitting in the back of her head without a single meaningful thing in my mind, I was watching. She stood in the courtroom, arm thrust, before her commandingly, a wild smile on her face. She wore a regal red dress adorned with gold and black and red ribbon. Her hair was blonde, her skin was pale, but her eyes were red, certainly not blue. I understood the white rabbit, ears quite straight, a mad grin on her face, and mad papers with mad scrawl in her hand. Your Majesty. The body moved without me thinking to do anything. I no longer cared to do anything. The body talked without me thinking to say anything. I no longer cared to say anything. It didn't matter. If I could have, I would have stopped watching. It was not because the sights were horrific, but because I no longer wanted to deal with anything and everything. Not even the matters of the Red Queen. A dog, a cat, a bird, a girl, a boy, a person who was neither a mother, a father, an elderly. One by one they came by to be judged. Some begged, some cried, some fought, some silently accepted their fate. The rabbit read out their accused crimes for show, allowing for the Red Queen to proceed. However, there existed only one result: guilty. At some point she began to laugh. At some point I began to laugh. Ha ha ha. As ruler, I have sovereignty over my citizens and at the same time responsibility to make this kingdom prosper. A prosperous kingdom must have law and order. Do you understand? Off to the gallows. Be glad for mercy, criminal. Glory to Her Majesty and her benevolence. Cards, bring the next one in for Her Majesty. The accused was reported by her brother-in-law for engaging in gossip and planning treason against the crown by speaking ill of Her Majesty. A simple sentence, a simple beheading for this bird. Bring her away. Cards. The accused was caught evading taxes. She was also seen stealing from upright citizens, assaulting merchants, and spreading rumors about Her Majesty's state of mind. She was only apprehended recently, as the cards were unable to capture her previously. Break her legs. Her Majesty is truly brilliant. As for her sentence, cut off her arms so that she can't commit crimes any longer when she reaches the afterlife, and throw her into a prison to await execution by skinning. What will a cat rug look like without arms? A criminal's skin is much too rough for a good rug. Off with the cat. Oh no, Cheshire Cat! Oh no! She seemed to think for a moment and snapped her fingers, rending the cat's arms from her body in an instant. And execute the cards. Failed to catch it before. We have no need for worthless cards. Next. The Red Queen. I don't know if she was happy. While she convicted the accused, I inadvertently began to lose track of my surroundings and be jolted back by a particularly interesting sentence. The accused. Before the rabbit finished speaking, the accused rushed at the Red Queen. The Red Queen gestured with her hand. An unseen power slammed the criminal down into the ground, creating a crack in the marble flooring of the courtroom. Presumptuous. The force tore fingertip-sized meat piece by piece from the criminal, the meat writhing on the floor as it rolled around trying to get it to stop. Have you forgotten who you belong to? The Red Queen finished once the criminal was ripped into a pile of red pulp on the ground to be swept away by the cards. I was smiling. The Red Queen was smiling. Next. The day in court continued until the courtroom was devoid of life. She worked on paperwork after court. Between stacks, she converged with ministers, who sweat nervously each time she met their beady eyes. Finishing up her important documents, she proceeded to go for a brisk walk, practice swinging a sword here and there. Bringing the Red Queen a towel and water, the rabbit asked if she wanted to visit the White Queen today, which the Red Queen decided against. Dinner time arrived soon enough. She sat at a large dining table, at the head of the long table, all alone. A sumptuous meal was served with red wine before her. She had no one to share it with. The food tasted alright. More importantly, it had been poisoned. Fuck, not positioned, poisoned. The chef used just a little too much, but the meat began to lose its charm and turned to mediocrity. The Red Queen called the chef over. His eyes started to run the room wildly. Knowing that he had nowhere to escape, his legs shook and he fell to his knees, beginning to beg. The Red Queen took the sword from the decorative suit of armor from the room. Off with his head, who dared to poison the queen. Watching as the servants cleaned away the chef's remains, she returned to her meal, which had been quickly replaced. She drank a sip of wine, poisoned wine. Dots. Next day, she returned to the courtroom. One by one, the numbers diminished again. Even those in the jury were not spared if they made the slightest slight. The rabbit smiled with glee, writing down the names of the criminals who were to be executed. Not a few times she took the job herself, an axe in hand, and boots squelching in blood. The Red Queen enjoyed her judgment court. Wonderland was her domain, and its people her pieces. If they became disobedient, then she would never let them throw her possessions into disarray. One day she didn't go, working on governess. The day she did, working on her world's peace. These times continued till one day the Red Queen fell apart when I was still awake. Curling my fingers, I discovered I was in control. I walked over to the balcony. Seeing the ground terribly far away, I lifted myself over the balustrade and threw myself off. Air rushed past me. Splat. Falling. I was falling again, back through time. The interstice between the different times and different worlds was still incomprehensible as before. My body knotted together from its wrinkled form when I returned to Wonderland. Falling, I fell straight onto a table. Bam! I had returned to an iteration of the Hatter's place. I sprawled out on the table. I glanced upward and saw a familiar pair of mismatched eyes. Unfamiliar. She jumped, looking surprised. Do I know you? No, not quite. Could you get off the table? I do need to put down tea and snacks at some point, if you understand. She smiled. The Hatter seemed different, as if a heavy weight had not yet settled on her shoulders. Many dots. Got off the table and stood awkwardly around the unfamiliar place. The Hatter set down her teapot. She was preparing a tea party of sorts, causing me to realize that I had never seen her do setup, as things were always already on the table. What's your name? Alice. I'm Alice. It should be Hatter.
Hmm?
She formed her lips into an O. Is there somewhere you need to be so badly that you nearly broke my table? No, I've nowhere. Well, why don't you take a seat? No one uses that armchair over there. Much too armchair, they say. You know how armchairs are, right? She made a white smile. I hesitantly approached my armchair. The chair looked newer than in my before. As I sat in it, I sank into the soft cushions. Even though it reminded me of the hammer through my skull, the chair did nothing wrong. I clutched my chest. You weren't having tea. What time is it? This person hated me. Perhaps she did not hate me yet, in the moment that we were meeting now, but she hated me all the same in the future, in my present. I shouldn't have cared, my heart hurt. The clock's at 15 minutes before 4. It's almost tea time. Maybe it already is. I'm waiting for March and Dormouse, so it's surely not yet tea time. Tea time, after all, is just state of mind. I see. You look sad, Alice. Do I? With my hand in my face, touching my cheek. I certainly was not smiling. What's your favorite tea? She retrieved a tea set to place on the table, bringing not 3 cups, but 4. 1 cup and saucer was put before me. I enjoy black tea. Recently, I've grown fond of Earl Grey. Dots. What about you, Hatter? She winked. I like any tea, but I also rather like Earl Grey. I'm not sure why it's an Earl rather than a Count or a Duke, but I'm sure the tea tastes best in Earl. I've heard that it's named after a minister. Or perhaps the minister is just named after the tea. Fancy that. Your name is Gary. Oh, your name is Grey, so Your Majesty tells you that you've become Earl Grey. The Hatter looked happier. A film of water built up over my vision, turning blurry. It's got something in my eyes. I think it bubbled up in my throat. The water wouldn't stop. I was still smiling. She started to look worried. Why are you crying? I rolled down my cheeks. I hurriedly tried to wipe them away with my hands. I had to look completely concerned now. I really can't complain. Haha, this is so odd. Awkwardly, she smiled. Eat cake. Do you like cake? Would you rather a sandwich or maybe something salty? If you're lacking salt and sugar, you'll go a little crazy like that. She poured me a cup of tea, passed me some cakes with a set of utensils she was just getting out. She gave a caring look. It tastes good. Drinking the tea and eating the cake, I noticed how much more amateurish flavor than my Hatter, the future Hatter, would make. However, it tasted good. Maybe it tasted happier. My shoulders shook up and down for a while. But for the longest time, I had cried since I was a toddler, rubbing my eyes pink. As the tears stopped, I cleared my throat and averted my eyes from the Hatter. Compliments to you, Hatter. The Hatter beamed. Why, thank you. We sat together in a peaceful silence for a while, afterward, before she turned her head and exclaimed, There they are! Oh, they're so cute! Oh my god! Oh no! A sleepy little mouse and a hare with a straw hat approached from the forest. They looked just like little puppets my Hatter wore often on her hands. Looking at my curiosity, they took their seats to the table. A guest? Looks like a pest. Don't be rude, March. There's already a crowd. No room, no room. Oh, they're so cute. I love them. Well, there's a crowd before it's a party. If you have 5, then, well, we can think about it later. Don't make her girl cry, March. This is Alice. This is March Hare. This is Dormouse. Hatter poured some tea for both of them, and they began to chat, glancing toward me and tugging me into the conversation, even as their ramblings devolved into nonsense. Halfway through each topic, Dormouse seems to snooze off and dip her little nose into her tea by accident. Did Hatter make you cry, Alice? She's a lady killer, she is. I've always known it. Dormouse's CBs. Dormouse, wake up with the gossip. I'm right here, March. She looks like butter. Here's the yellow hair.
Butter? She looks a little silly. Like her brain's been all turned up. But she looks like good butter.
I couldn't help but crack a slight smile at their antics.
More sunny than buttery. Do you want buttery, Alice?
No, thank you. I'm quite alright.
That aside, psst, psst. How's Alice?
The March Hare and Dormouse pulled me to the side for a private conversation.
I don't seem to fancy you. Not so directly. Ah, there is your voice, Dormouse, Dormouse. Shh. That's usually my line, March. You can't open the lines, now can you? March is right. That hatter looks fondly upon you.
I couldn't read.
You do seem nice. Kinda dumb. She seems nice. I still approve. I'm just saying, alright? Be kind to Hatter. Be good to our Hatter. We can't be around for forever, so that's the promises, Alice. You have a feeling that this is very important. Swear it on a stick of holy butter.
I won't be here for very long. But no, I'll promise it. I swear on everything that could ever be precious to me that I will treat her well if we met again.
Hey, she's back to bed. Dormouse, Dormouse.
Return to the Hatter. Everyone's continued chatting over tea. I enjoyed tea time today, I really did. Yet I didn't belong here. I didn't deserve here either. I know that my presence would just throw everything into disarray. Finishing my tea, I stopped the Hatter from filling my cup. Hatter shaped her mouth into a surprised O. I had a wonderful time today. I have to leave. This place isn't mine. But thank you for the tea again, Hatter. You too, March and Dormouse. The Hatter smiled.
Oh, but that mean you, Alice.
I already knew you from the future. But I was so happy to see you, Hatter. It was a shame that my Hatter didn't feel the same way. Alice, what did you feel for the Hatter? Something precious. The Hatter winked with her cheeky grin.
See you later.
I wanted her to be happy. I'll be Zane. Giving her a weak wave, I left the happier Hatter. I didn't particularly have a place to go. Home. That was no longer my goal. Walking away, I wiped away the tears that welled up again. Eventually, I was falling again. I died. That much I understand. However, I seemed to have forgotten how I died this last time. In a way, I knew that I couldn't keep doing this. Alice, this was your last iteration. The power letting you keep falling had already run out. Next time, you wouldn't come back to Wonderland in any time. As my body pieces itself back to place, I waited for myself to stop falling. I burst back into my relative presence and hit the ground softly. Laying back flat on the ground, I grasped at the grass below me, kept my fingers on the blades. Above me, the sky is terribly blue. No matter who I was, the world would move on without me. However, people could not so simply move on. Be it a matter of hate, or a matter of love, or just a matter of apathy, the connections people had were difficult to sever. Before I realized it, a certain person had settled into my heart. I want to see Hatter. My Hatter. Alice, you really are no good. No, it's better to say that I really am no good. I had already fallen for that Mad Hatter. She wormed her way into my heart, unintentionally, as she threw me on a wild duck chase for the Red Queen's dismembered parts in her revenge. I wondered how she felt now that she had her goal filled. The final look on her face that I saw before I died was painful. It was painful not because of the crushing of my skull, but because the constriction of my heart. The constriction of my heart as I looked at her. A strange girl, a lonely girl, ultimately a terribly kind girl, who was stumbling along a blighted path. That was who the Hatter was. I'm sorry. I pushed myself up. Useless Alice had a want, not one of obligation, not one of what should be, but really, had I ever really wanted to go home? Not one that tutors or anyone forced upon her. I went to find the Hatter. I started walking, I started running down the forest path once more. If she was, all by her lonesome, the bags under her eyes had not lightened at all, and she listlessly played with the rim of her teacup until she suddenly saw me. She frowned deeply. Why? She harshly stood up. Why did you come back? She became enraged. Why can't you just disappear? Getting a plate off the table, ignoring the pastry atop it, she chucked it at me. Smash. The plate bruised me and shattered on the ground, leaving a mangled lump of sweets and porcelain. Alice! Alice! She slammed the table, originally forcing her hands down with great momentum, before suddenly slowing down as she smacked it. Wincing, the Hatter let out a pained, guttural noise. Why are you like this? I hate you, Alice. She clutched her chest and glared at me with murky, watery eyes. Why are you like this? I had no answer. She had a conflicted, wobbly frown. You're contradictorily cruel and kind. You're messed up, Alice. Just choose one thing to be, you heartless woman. I like you, but I also hate you. I also liked her. I loved her. She became enraged. You're a useless freeloader who just comes to bother me, a waste of space. She became flustered. Or Alice, who always accompanies me and extends a hand to me. The Hatter began to cry. The Red Queen, monster, killer. I hate you. She yelled as she cried, furious tears running down her cheeks. Why couldn't you have properly just died? I killed you. You're the same thing as the Red Queen. You shouldn't have come back. You... She picked up a teacup and threw it at me, smashing me right in the forehead. I stumbled back. Hot tea spilled down me, mixing with blood that came from a simple flesh wound that itself shattered into tiny pieces on the ground. It didn't shatter in your face. Go away! She grabbed the bloody hammer off the table and flung it, missing me by a fair margin. It whooshed through the air, spinning and lodging itself deeply into the tree behind me. My blood was still in the middle face. Tell me who you're supposed to be! I am Alice. I am Alice. The Hatter raised her brows. The Red Queen and I are one and the same, but I am Alice. Her essence is intertwined with mine, but I am me and me alone. I'm scared of the idea that we could become the same. I never want to become someone like her. An empty heart, an empty life. Even as she lashes out at the rest of the world, she's still empty. Admittedly, I'm also no good. I'm a heartless person who hurts others as well. But I hold just two certainties. I am Alice. Alice is me. And for the I who am Alice, I am the person... Oh, you are the person who took my heart. Haha. Is it okay to say I'm Alice? I nervously fiddled with my fingers behind my back, looking at the Hatter as my heart raced. I couldn't read her expression behind those mismatched eyes. Dots. She wiped her eyes with the sleeves. Opening her mouth time and time again, she seemed to have trouble finding her words. I like the Alice who's Alice. Red Queen scares me, but... If you would let me believe it, I want to believe that you are Alice. Oh, yes, you can. She made a tired frown. Brows furrowed. Upset. Ever since March and Dormouse died, time has stopped at tea time like a curse. I'm tired of tea. Then why don't you try coffee? She cried out. Is my life just for revenge on the Red Queen? She looked up at the sky as if lost. The Red Queen is dead! Deliberately mouthing the words slowly again, she seemed to convince herself of that reality. Then she looked back toward me. She gave me a somber smile. Alice! You are Alice! That smile disappeared as quickly as it came. She looked flustered now. Her voice grew small and gazed downward at her feet. I hurt you. I know. I extended a hand toward her. She was all alone. She was stood so close yet so far away. I wanted her to take my hand. We were both problem children. Perhaps I was a little mad. She slowly walked before me, looking at my hand as if seeing something foreign. She raised her brows a bit. Lifting her arm up, she reached out to my hand shakily. Her fingers trembled and hovered over my hand. For a moment, she retracted her hand. Then she placed her hand in mine. I love you, Hatter. Many dots. Alice. She stared at me, trying to ascertain the truth of my words. With a deeply shaky breath, she gave me her response. She smiled. I love you too. Let's fucking go! Would you accompany me for a dance? Give me a kiss and make me happy? Hell yeah. She asked of me just 3 things. I can't make you happy. I wish I could fulfill all 3 requests. A physical item or a physical deed. Those I could easily accomplish, but the one of the heart, I knew not if I could. I don't know if we can make each other happy, but I placed a kiss upon her lips. Let's go! Yes! She frowned. That's fine. Even if I have no ability to promise such things. I want to let you be happy. You are my dearest, precious person. The Hatter smiled somberly. I want you to be happy, Alice. That makes me happy. She looked at me fondly. Not just like this, hey yo. More so, hey yo. Yay! I took her hand. We danced upon the table. Spinning around, our feet tangled in the tablecloth, and tea set strewn about. She pulled her hat off for a moment. We looked at each other with sad smiles. Hatter, if the world were to end tomorrow, what would you do? I have nothing left for me here, Alice, so I suppose I would do nothing. You're still right here with me, aren't you? She was so light. I wish I could show you my world. It's not particularly spectacular world. I was utterly unfantastical. Yet there are things that I liked. Maybe my siblings, they're better. 2 cats. If you care for cats at all. I wouldn't like that. I pulled her along, leading the mad dance. With no music, we moved to the erratic tempo of our hearts together. Alice? Why did you fall in love with me? I mean, I looked, and I was like, goddamn. Maybe it was just fate. Maybe it was just luck. Meeting you time and time again, I grew fonder and fonder of you. At first I simply thought you were lonely, but eventually I fell in love with your heart. Love. I've never known about love before. I'm not sure if I can truly explain why my heart beats as it does for you, Hatter. From that aside, you're cute. You can cook and sew and brew good tea. You're warm. You're actually rather kind. What about you to me? I should ask that of you instead. Happiness. Probably we had no such fate, but we wish for it. Finally, we fell. Falling, falling, falling. We were falling. Down this rabbit hole with no start, nowhere end. We were falling together. I knew not where we would fall, for there was no more wonderlands for us to fall to. That what we just fell from was the very last iteration. I embraced the Hatter and closed my eyes. How warm she was, the person I treasured. I only asked for a world where we can be happy together. Surely we would meet again in a land much more wonderful than this. Somewhere, sometime, surely. Yay! We got a teacup! Let's go! Woo! We did it, Reddit. The music in this game is really good. I know I wasn't commenting on it, but every song was like a hit. Alice ending. Thank you for playing. There's another one if I go after the White Queen. But she's boring. She's no Mad Hatter. Shift scene, 60%. So that's it for Who is the Red Queen. I greatly enjoyed this game. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I would recommend for everybody to try it out for themselves. See what kind of ending you get, and see if you are able to get all 100% of the script. But thank you very much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you later.